All right. Oh, let's play some Fusion World, show people that Goku Black is the best deck. Let's check this out. All right, cool. Whatever this feature is not working. Probably some sort of point gain later on. All right, let's try to find an opponent, I guess.
Huh?
Cosmic here, welcome back to the channel, and today we're finally going to talk about Fusion World's digital client and, well, the work that needs to be done. Now, in case this is the only Fusion World video of mine that you've seen, I do need to add some disclaimers or context up front, because for me, digital version is going to be really important. Once these celebration events wrap up, we've already seen a decline of local interest because, well, a lot of people just want to play digitally, and that's totally understandable. But if I don't have a place to play locally, and with all the other card games I'm covering or doing stuff for, it's all going to come down to digital for me. So depending on what Bandai does over the next 6 months, really determines on if I can personally continue with Fusion World or not, because spoiler, I will be doing a lot for Union Arena when that drops in October. So the time that I have to play Fusion World physically is extremely limited. So with that said, that out of the way, I also do want to make the disclaimer that I have covered a lot of digital trading card games or collectible card games over the last X amount of years. Artifact, Legends of Runeterra, Gwent, Magic Online, Magic Arena, a bunch of other ones I'm sure I'm forgetting, Shadowverse, which we're going to cover in this video, and then Shadowverse World, yeah, when that comes out. So I do have a lot of experience and context in this specific area, and I do feel that Bandai really dropped the ball in terms of what this means from a digital experience for players versus something that was more likely built just to support the physical product, which, to be fair, can be fine too. Once more product is out there, once more codes are readily available, that probably isn't an issue so much in terms of the card economy, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. So overall, I'm going to break this down into 3 different sections. First, talking about gameplay, then go into some of the features, then the card economy, and then just high level some bugs, some issues and stuff like that. But at least break it down into those 3 different sections. And if you know some of my other videos, I only make notes like twice a year that I'm going to do. Like, I don't ever write a script, but I at least have some notes on the side because I think there is just a lot to cover. And hopefully this won't end up being like a 30-minute video because there is a lot to talk about. But with that out of the way, let's dig into the first one, which is just gameplay. So each of these sections is going to have a positive and a negative. And for gameplay, I think Bandai did an amazing job. I want to be very, very upfront with that. Just in terms of how the game plays out, the UI, while the home screen is a little bit dated, at least getting into the action, getting into the gameplay itself, and you're going in the ladder, is really fun. It's engaging. It looks awesome with all like the finishing animations. And again, I'm just going to have some gameplay up here of just one of the recorded matches, but there is a lot of fun back and forth that happens. And, you know, there are small things. I wish the combo UI was a little bit bigger. I wish that we could see a little bit more detail and not so much click fatigue of going through, like, what's in my discard? What is this, you know, peel off going to get back? What did my opponent get back with their effects? So I think there are some things that need to be improved there. But overall, from a literally let's play the game, how does the game work, I think Bandai did a great job. However, as you might have noticed by now, is that ranked is broken, quite literally. This is something that is unacceptable when a game launches, but matchmaking in this game is quite literally just who is available. So a lot of people are talking about, oh, I got to God rank. I've spent all this time investing, you know, all these hours and money and resources and all that good stuff. So again, kudos to them, not trying to take anything away from the amount of time invested, but it is a bit cheap when you consider that God tier players are playing against quite literally level 1 or level 2 people who are just learning the game, like one match after the tutorial, right? Like, I really want to stress that this is unheard of in other digital clients to be broken this badly in terms of like, what does the ladder look like, right? There is no ladder. There is no sort of, ranking system that's other than just like, I got points and I spent time, therefore I got to God rank. You have people who are in God tier just beating up on bronze level players who have uncompleted decks. They might not be familiar with the UI and are just generally putting together whatever they can and trying the best and reading cards as they go, right? So when you launch a digital client and your main feature, like your main gameplay experience, is broken, that's not great. That is, in my opinion, just wholly unacceptable. And it really felt like this needed some extra time in the, beta period. That said, what choice do they really have? Because you can't also launch your digital client late. You want it to be set one, so players are entering their codes, making sure they're at least starting their progression, right, in terms of the various, card unlocks and things like that. But again, unfortunately, the gameplay itself is broken by all, industry relatable standards that if you don't have a working matchmaking, like what else do you really have? So again, at least in terms of gameplay overall, trying to keep it very high level before I dig into these other sections, I think it is fun. I do enjoy playing Fusion World. I do not enjoy playing against people with, and again, I am low ranked myself still because I've only played a couple games, but it is very clear that people are either, or maybe there's bots and AI in the game. Who knows? That could be a reasonable thing too, but it is like your low ranking ladder experience that you are understandably playing against people who are not familiar with the game, and that can be very difficult. So with that in mind, it is something that, knowing that God tier is broken and that there's no real incentive, which I'll talk about later, to grinding it out, like I'm already at a spot where I don't really want to play the Fusion World because I'm not gaining anything out of those experiences, where instead it is just better to private match people and just go about it that way, which there is a lot to be said, or like that's normally the case, but there should at least be some type of motivating factor, or I should at least be excited to play on your ladder, and that is simply not the case. However, that does lead me then into the more feature side of it and talking about like, okay, well, if we understand that matchmaking is broken and just a terrible experience once you kind of like peel back the layers of the onion, what else is there? So if you go to mode select, and I'm just going to do this in real time, there's free match, which again, kind of whatever with these, and just ranked or free. We talked about like the 1v1 experience, but what is very nice is room match. And I know this is one thing that I got to give them, again, a huge credit for, is that this is something that we didn't have at Magic Arena's launch. Like, we did not have a friends list. We did not have, the ability to 1v1 our friends in case we wanted to test for an upcoming tournament. So from a, what is the player, experience like from a play with my friends or wanting to run a lobby, this is great. And because this is, going back to more of my Artifact days where we had still the best in-game tournament running experience ever, and nothing has come close yet since Artifact, I really do got to give, again, positive here. Bandai did a really great job, because when you go to create a room, and then you can do it by lobbies, but I'm thinking this more from a TO perspective, you can now run a 50 lobby or 50 person room, which means you can have 25 tables that's all set up. Now, the one thing, I'm just going to click through this really quick to create it. Once you do it and you create a table, right, let's run something through Best Coast pairings, just as one example, right? It's very easy. I can click right here. Well, I guess I'm glad this happened in real time, but there are going to be bugs like that from time to time, but otherwise it's usually really easy. You can jump into a table. You can set up spectator rules. There's replay features. This is all very great. I was really impressed with this, because this is something that we generally don't have a lot of time when you think about the, what does a new digital game look like? And then again, of course, you could set room ID so that you can make sure that it's privated. You want to run a, again, 50 player event on a Wednesday night, make it best of one, all that stuff. Like, you can at least let this run and have the room set up to where people don't have to like, oh, I need to go friend this person and send them an invite code, like we see in a lot of other digital card games, right? I don't have to go through this experience of trying to track them down, right? It's all within this lobby. Now, it does still require, at least from what I've been able to gather, there's no automatic tournament setup from within the client itself, but at least you could partner with Best Coast pairings from this point. So kind of, where would I like to see this evolve from here? is I would like to see something more in clients. So about 2 years ago, Shadowverse added this in where you could actually run a tournament, and I think theirs is capped at 64, if I'm not mistaken. And I know some other games have been trying to promote this as well, but this is something that I think would be a nice thing to include later on. So going back to this now, and if you ever like click out of this for whatever reason, you do need to hit go to come back here, but we'll exit out of this really quick. But the one thing I did have an issue with is that if I were to go to room match overall, and if I want to just find a table instead, right? Like, let's just say I'm trying to get an experience. You can see it's connecting. It's really trying to turn like, hey, I don't want to play ladder. I just want to see what tables are open. This is still going. It is very laggy. It is very, I've tried this a few times. I've tried to open this in other areas. I've tried it on time of day. It's still going. There you go. It's a very rough experience, right? But then otherwise, it's nice that they have a player ID. So again, if you and your friends are trying to put together a scrim for a tournament, you want to run like you have 12 players, you know, that's 6 tables, and you want to just talk about it. You're all on a Discord call together. It's really cool to go from there and make sure you have the room ID as well. But then the other thing that I was running into that, and I'm just going to jump into I guess I'll pick this one randomly. The other problem I was running into is if I then try to click into a room, it does take a little while, and I've had it to where it would kick me out. So there's still clearly some networking issues on the back end that need to be improved upon, which, again, we went through the beta. That some of this stuff you can only really figure out in the live versions of it. So I do take that with a grain of salt. Again, I am trying to think of this from a overall, what does the next 6 months look like for Bandai to get into in terms of where are these improvements going to see? So again, overall networking issues, I think definitely needs to be improved upon. But overall, from a new digital card game experience, I think they did a great job with room matching. I would like to see this kind of upgraded into being able to run a full tournament, but at least for now, we can still rely on things like Best Coast pairings or other third-party softwares that allows players to at least still run these mock tournaments. Yes, it's capped at 50. That's just, it is what it is sort of thing. But, you know, that does allow us to run a quick event because it is still best of one, all things considered, and also rewards players with the replay experience so you can go back and watch a match. And that's all really nice. Now, the other part I do have to mention, because we are talking about features, and to be fair, player customization is a large part of that. So again, what type of cosmetics did we really get? And to be fair, a decent job at kind of a first guess at this, right? So you do get a in-game preview of like going through all this. You can have your hats, you can have a tiara. Obviously, I bought glasses, sunglasses, some of the various effects here with like the lightning effects. That's kind of extra stroby, right? And just really cool stuff that's on your homepage. Your opponent will see this as you're going to a match. And overall, like, you know, $2 effectively if you buy the highest part, or again, if you are someone who has already been buying physical product, like if you bought half a case and you enter all those codes, which I have and we'll kind of talk about here in just a second, you get enough that it's like, I don't mind spending these gems on these cosmetic features. But keep in mind, this is something that at the end of the day, Fusion World Digital needs to make money, right? This is not something that can likely be supported just by physical sales. This is expensive. There's a lot of cool animations, which we talked about. So Bandai does need to find a way to incentivize players to spending money in the client itself. Again, rest in peace, Legends of Runeterra. We've seen too many times, or too recently, what happens when you don't have ways that players can really spend money in game and support you. So I do think this is something that needs to be improved upon, or not really improved upon, but as much as like they need to keep adding to this. And now this is where we start to go into, and I guess I should show off the other ones, right? A couple other border options and then some background. So if you really want to customize this out, you're probably spending about $10 to $15. Again, I'm just using the max gem conversion, but that's going to be a one-time purchase for a lot of players. So with all that out of the way, you know, we're talking about the importance of features. Again, replay, really nice to see. The room matches, very great. I love all that stuff. But now, let's talk about card economy and the reality that you need to have players stick around in the game. You need to create a system once matchmaking gets fixed, right? That's why I wanted to talk about that up front, because a lot of this kind of doesn't matter until you fix matchmaking in terms of like the new player experience, to a limit at least, right? Like I think the starter deck that you get is like a nice start, and that yes, the early ranks of this game should 100% be players who have their starter decks and are just slowly working their way up on the ladder, right? 100% that's how it should be. But at least for right now, those same players can get matched into people who are God tier or on their climb very high up to God tier, which is just not great overall. So within the store, and like, you know, just talking about this from a overall perspective, and I guess I should talk about these serial codes because this is technically under card economy. This sucked. 100%. This sucked. And I'm sorry, I have nothing positive to say about card economy. So if you want to skip ahead to the bug section, be my guest. But there's nothing positive at any point to say about the card economy. It is an absolute disaster, right? And I'll kind of break this down to each section, but this overall 100% needs to be revamped, and hopefully kind of soon. Again, this was very clearly, if you are spending even like $60 to buy gems and just open a bunch of packs and finish one deck, that's probably fine. But you have to remember that a lot of people who are going to be supporting your game long term and making sure that there's people who are still playing the game are going to be your free-to-play grinders. And if you lose that section of the community and they don't ever come back because they have such a harshly negative first-time experience with those starter decks, they're not coming back, and they're never going to be back. So you're now stuck in a spot where like people are dropping out of the game. There's very long queues to matchmake, and you just don't have a good ecosystem to let players build up their collections because, spoilers, you're only going to get 2 packs a week, and we're going to talk about that more when we talk about the missions, but I kind of wanted to at least, you know, higher level first, talk about the serial codes and kind of entering those in, right? Again, positive. You open up a booster pack, you get a code, you enter the code here, you get a pack online. Awesome. It's a great way to incentivize people to play your physical game and then reward them by giving them a pack in digital. Pokemon is very successful with this. However, in Pokemon, you have a way to scan in or take a photo or otherwise make it a lot easier to get those codes online. And if you're someone like me who entered half a case worth of codes because anything more than that was kind of overkill, it was just not a good time, right? So here's where we have our, serial code. We enter these, you hit confirm, it gives you a pack. By the way, this took me like an hour, literally an hour to enter the 144 codes. You go to store, you go to, I don't have any packs here, but this is like, you click on packs, it has a 1 through 10, right? Now, unfortunately, I did accidentally delete my card opening video that I was going to kind of include here, but at least just from a, higher level, the thing is like the wild card system is just awful. So if I go to build a deck and I just talk about like, where did I end up overall? And so one of the questions a lot of players are going to have is like, did I open up enough super rares to finish a deck? So I got very lucky from the sounds of it that like when I was going through and, there's not a super rare filter, but just to show you like, oh, I got 3 May Future and 1 of the premium version, because you see it has like the foil behind it. And I also got 1 alt art, right? Going through some of the other ones, with the starters, you open those up. But for Goku Black, I got 1 regular and 3 what would be SPRs. So it's like, oh, if I would have needed to make extra of those, I would have been kind of stuck. And what's really unfortunate about this system is that before I can get a wild card, you can see my wild card counts up here, which are not great. Before I can get another super rare wild card, so I've opened 144, right, and even more than that based on whatever the game gave me initially. Like, I've opened 150 packs, and I only got two of them super rare wild cards. So, like, if I didn't get lucky in kind of opening up some of these alt arts or other copies, like, I would have just been SOL, because when you create a system where you don't get a wild card until I have 4 of these May, right? So you can see I'm already missing one that I can still open up another copy of May Future despite having them here. So I have, 5 total right now, but getting the extra copies, like getting this one doesn't do anything for me. So this is where I got like really upset, because the only way to get these alt arts is to open them. But then that also restricts what you're getting from a super rare copy. So we'll just kind of go into some of the other ones and just look at what I got for other ones. Like, okay, Frieza, we got 4 of. We got 1 alternate art, wherever Cooler is at. Ginyu, so yep, here we go. Ginyu, I only got a 2 of, and there's no trading, there's no dusting. So if I want to swap between these other decks, I have to spend these 2 super rare wild cards that I have. And like, cool, common, uncommon, rares, like you're all good on that end, but getting super rares is extremely difficult if you're someone who wants to build multiple decks. Now again, I think it was around probably 100 packs or so is like where I finally got like a complete deck. But again, that's admitting that did I get enough of what I want versus like, oh, I guess I'm just playing this one deck that the game gave me. So that's where I kind of like have to draw a weird line where it's like thinking about Magic Arena and thinking about Shadowverse, thinking about like Gwent and some of the other stuff. Like if you were to tell me, if I were to spend, let's just say $100 and I got the deck I wanted, that would be cheap in some situations. Like that's fine-ish. But then the thing you have to consider is a lot of those other card games will have something like the Vault in Magic Arena, where it gives you extra resources for opening up packs. Like there's no other like, oh, because you opened up 20 packs, here's an extra super rare just on top, right? Or in like Hearthstone or other games, there's no dusting system that allows you to say like, hey, I'm never gonna play Frieza. Let's get rid of all 4 of these Friezas because I don't care, right? So that's where it becomes very, very difficult. So, okay, finishing a deck is difficult if you're free to play. Let's talk about missions. Okay, let's open up our missions tab. Let's see what we can do. Play a battle card in ranked free. Like some of these are good, but you are getting 5 gems and you need 100 to get a single pack, right? Like I really want to stress just how abysmal this is. And then of course, you also have the issue of like, oh, use a red leader, use a yellow leader. Unless someone already has all the starter decks and then is also bashing their head against their desk trying to matchmake against these god tier or higher up players who have everything they need while you're using your yellow Frieza starter, right, to get these gems. This is just overall terrible. So like the entry point when we think about like a free-to-play experience, there's nothing here, right? And then we talk about like, oh, what's my login bonus? Oh, I get a 10th of a pack, right? This isn't it. So the way this all breaks down is that you get 2 packs a week, so 8 in a month. And so we know that sets are coming out every 3 months. So now suddenly if you play as much as you can to get all the weekly packs and all that stuff, you're now looking at just 24 packs for an entire set cycle at best. That's not great. That is just, you are going to lose free-to-play players extremely fast. And then nobody is at like that, your mass of players that usually are there to lift up so people aren't having, 5-minute queue times or disconnecting at the beginning, like I said. So that's going to be very unfortunate. So the thing I want to at least point out very high level, it's like, what would I like to see, right, is Shadowverse is very good about this. Shadowverse has done a great job, and going into just a battle pass, right? Like the fact that we don't have a battle pass or some other way, one, to get more money out of players. I promise you, if there was a dope battle pass that had extra cosmetics, like we've already seen that they have cosmetics in the game and are doing pretty well. Let's bump that up a little bit, right? Let's add more to that. Let's get more incentive for players to spend money. And then even for your free players, right? So for context, 50 coins or 100 coins is a pack in Shadowverse. So you get 50 here. You get literally a free pack. And like the free-to-play track is actually just pretty great. And then if you want to spend 10, 15 bucks, get some more cosmetics, spoiler, you're getting even more coins here, right? You're getting other emblems. You're getting card sleeves. Like, I know that there's the comment around like, what does dev time look like and what does it actually mean to get these in here? So this could be something that they're cooking up for set 2, but with the current systems in place, it's just not great. There's nothing there for free-to-play players, and until the product is more readily available and people are, wanting to play this at their LGS and then getting codes and scanning those in, that's all fine. But for your digital only players, they are going to get left in the dust 100%. There's nothing you can really do about it. You have to spend. And I think instead of telling players that you have to spend 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 bucks to like finish a deck, if you tell them, hey, let's fix some missions, right? Let's talk about even what Shadowverse does better is win one match, right? And then you're like just under a third of the way there to get a pack, or just win 6 ranked matches, right? You're not leader locked. It's just go play ranked, play your favorite deck, and we're going to give you a pack at the end of it. And then of course, just, you know, win 3 matches for 30 rupees there as well, coins, rupees, whatever. So Shadowverse at least shifts the focus from, I don't care if you're playing, you know, I'm not going to tell you play a red leader, play a yellow leader, play a green leader, play a blue leader, and then you get your rewards, right? It is just, hey, whatever you want to play, that's totally fine. Go out there, go farm the ranked, you know, play some matches, get some packs, and that's fine. However, in the battle pass, to be fair, is it will have other ways that's like, oh, I have to play these other game modes that may have a other restriction on them. So that's where, yes, to be fair, Shadowverse does put you into different lanes for the battle pass to make sure you're getting other stuff. But we don't have things like Take Two, which is a limited format or anything like that yet in Fusion World. So that's where you kind of have to like break apart and say like, oh, this is something that's going to be added later. And then of course, again, Shadowverse has replay features, tournament modes, stuff like that. A lot more that I would really like to see. So with that, going back to Fusion World here, just to kind of wrap things up at the end. One other thing I think that caught a lot of people is, you know, what does, oops, let's go to, you know, just general bugs, right? So if we think about purchasing gems and whatnot, you know, there's not anything that allows us to just have a PayPal. So of course, like I don't have any of my information entered in here because I haven't done anything about, but like there's no PayPal and like there's no way to just give players another option. So that's just another area where it's like, it would have been really nice to see some more flexibility in how players are able to buy the gems and stuff. So definitely an area of improvement from there. So the last thing I'll mention here very quickly at the end is bugs. So while I personally didn't have a lot of issues other than the couple that you've been seeing early on, but like my gameplay bugs themselves have been very minimal. Obviously I've had some issues with matchmaking. That's kind of a different issue. Like as we were just trying to record this video, there's a lot of networking issues that have come up from time to time, but I haven't found any game breaking bugs, but there have been some other ones that people have reported in the Facebook group. And there's a lot of comments here that you can dig into if you really want to. The one thing that I do have a lot of beef with is the local saves issue. So if you're trying to play on multiple devices, because the way that they're storing saves right now, it is extremely difficult for players to hop between. So this is something that I'm sure they'll fix in the future. This is like my only big gripe with bugs right now, is that hopping between platforms is very, very rough. And I hope they'll fix that in the future. But ultimately, overall, this is kind of like where we have started. Of course, there's going to be bugs, but how quickly can Bandai fix them is really going to be the big question on everyone's mind. So that's the end, or just a recap. Again, there was a lot to dig into. I felt that because of how much that I've personally been hyping up the digital client, and because of how important it is for me specifically, I really want to dig into this and give some areas of feedback that I hope Bandai will improve upon in the future. So again, I think just very bluntly, we are going to be losing a lot of free-to-play players very, very quickly with this game. Like I would not expect them to last more than a couple weeks, and that's going to have a negative impact on the digital experience for everybody. But, you know, it is still fun. I think this is a great introduction for if I'm someone who's buying a lot of sealed product and I just want an extra platform to play against my friends who are training for a regional. That's all great. However, it's not sustainable, and that's the thing that I really want to drive home here again at the end. The way that this is currently set up is 100% not sustainable for a digital client, and it will get shut down. You need to have your free-to-play players. You need to have those smaller purchase incentives to keep people coming back. But if you're just going to be catering to people who are buying a lot of sealed product and are then putting their codes online, and again, matchmaking doesn't work, so they're just playing against their friends, you're going to lose out on a large portion of your audience, and that would just suck considering how good the baseline of this game is, and clearly the areas where you can see if they fix matchmaking, if we can get some extra tournament features implemented in the system, this could be a very solid digital client. But as it exists today, I simply cannot recommend it to any free-to-play enjoyers or even light spenders because it's just not there from a complete package experience. So again, longer video. I want to make sure I did it justice, but that is my overall thoughts on the Fusion World digital client and hopefully some updates that we'll see from Bandai in the near future. So with that, my friends, let me know about your experiences with the digital client in the comments below. Of course, I will be digging in and getting some gameplay on the channel eventually, but I at least want to cover this again and just talk about the frustrations that I've been having with it very bluntly up front. So with that, my friends, stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.